the Football Pod on Off the Ball in partnership with AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. Hashtag the toughest.
Hello there, and you're very welcome along to episode 23 of the Football Pod with Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. Yes, it is a glorious Bank Holiday Monday, and the pod is here. We're always here for you. Boys, how's your Bank Holiday Monday going? Paddy, you're sun-kissed looking, I'll say.
Just in off the golf course, lads. I've had a great Monday. Out for a swim this morning. Played very well around Nutchelstown there with the team competition, so I am a little bit red. As I'm sure lots of the country will be tomorrow going back into work. But a busy weekend. Lots of games, driving around the country. But as Mondays go, it's been pretty good so far. Yeah.
You did the length and breadth of the country this week, did you?
Some mileage, boys. I'll be a millionaire by the end of this summer.
You're Nolan Park Saturday and the Highlands Monday.
Yeah, which are actually not that bad at all. Like
Okay.
Nolan Park, an hour and a half for me. The Hyde, under 2 hours. It was grand. We obviously did Cork Kerry. We broadcast from Nolan Park. Not a classic, I'd say. And then Dublin Kildare. It was actually started off okay. It wasn't bad for about 20-25 minutes, but second half was pretty
I think
pretty
the
poor.
Cork and Kerry game was better
We enjoyed
live.
it, didn't we?
So for people that are at the game, yeah, like I really enjoyed it, and I know the people who were at the game really enjoyed it. But then people who watched it, they were like, wasn't great. So
Yeah, we
I
enjoyed it.
know,
There was
it's
a lot of attacks. I suppose there was no real structure to it, James.
yeah, there was no shape whatsoever by either team. It was just full forward lines and then just bodies in the middle. But I thought that was interesting, and it was up and down the field, turnovers, shots going everywhere by Cork. Like, it was madness, but it was in a good way. I enjoyed the game, as opposed to some of the games we've seen which had no entertainment value. I thought the Kerry Cork game was decent.
It was one of those ones, Jimmy, though, wasn't it? And it was similar. The game after we did Dublin Kildare, where it was always at arm's length. You never thought the result was really in danger. Now Cork, kind of second half, they're kind of kept in touch, but you just felt Kerry were always going to have too much in it. I don't think it was brilliant from Kerry again. I seen Jack O'Connor's comments after. It was a little bit better defensively, obviously, from their Mayo game, but I think there's a bit of Kerry being better defensively, but also Cork, I'm sure we'll touch on this, they're pretty blunt up front, really. You know, they were getting runners in, they were creating opportunities, but they just don't have the X factor up front. But Yeah, to be fair. And then yesterday was watching the Rossies again for the second week in a row over in Hyde Park. Another beautiful day. And Sligo, to be fair, they put up for probably 3/4 of that game a very good showing. But as I think we kind of teed this up in advance that the Division 4 against the Division 1 team, they were probably going to run out of puff coming down the stretch and that little bit of depth that Roscommon have. So Roscommon won by 10 in the end. But again, some very good football played at times in that match as well. Yeah,
The general competitiveness. And I know we're talking about 24 matches to get rid of 4 teams, and Clare are actually the only team with nothing to play for this weekend. They're the only team in the All-Ireland series knocked out already. But
That's
the general
because
competitiveness,
there's 3 through in the group.
yeah, but the
That's
general
not
competitiveness
necessarily
of games,
because of the competitiveness, though. It's because
No,
you'd
sure.
want to be very bad not to get in through.
But my point is the scorelines. Like, there's no real tankings happening.
Yeah,
at the
that
minute.
is fair.
So Westmeath were ahead of Galway at half time. They stayed with them, had a man sent off. Galway pull away, they win by 8. But like, there is a general competitiveness in this game, which can only be good for these teams that are progressing and trying to improve and learn and get better, you know?
That is the case. But say, going back to the previous format, right, you had 3 weeks to really analyse a team, maybe even a month, and you'd know exactly where the weakness was, and you could hammer that. You know, at training for 3 weeks, your preparation, and then you go out and your whole year is based around this one championship game, and you're at it. Whereas now, it's not that, you know, it's game on game. You have to show different kind of skill set. Yeah, you have to show how you're going to grind results out, maybe with no preparation on each team. Yeah. So there's all those factors kind of chipping into it. And we're only learning about this year. It's the first time that we've seen this format.
Yeah, well, it was a whopper of a weekend. 16 matches. New York, again, the only team that weren't in action, but they're playing next weekend. They've been drawn against Carlow in the preliminary, so we have plenty to get stuck into this week. I do have a question for James, though. Did they run out of pint bottles of cider in Killarney this weekend?
Oh, they must have. There was some crowd in town. We had the Bike Fest on in the Glen Eagle, the Bike Fest.
Oh, yes,
all the Harley
that's a big
Davidsons
deal.
and the Honda whatever.
Jeez.
Not
Few
motorbike
characters at
personnel.
that, I'd say, was there?
There was, but it's a nice crowd because we have we have a
bikers.
rally weekend as well in the May Bank holiday, and that's busy weekend. But this was absolutely jammers. Serious setup now out in the Glen Eagle. Live music, packed. But the only thing is, it was about half an hour queue for a drink. So
You had to get
luckily,
3 or
I'm
4
living
at the
right
same
up there.
time.
Yeah, but then you're just getting knocked and pillared around everywhere when you're bringing your drink down.
Yeah.
But,
Did you have your leather biker jacket on?
I did. I actually bought it last year, yeah.
Unreal.
Too hot for that, though, no?
With the Kerry shorts.
There's some money in all that gear.
I'd say,
You
yeah.
bought Harley Davidson t-shirt was like $99.99.
It's good value.
Flying off the railing.
Legion are top of the table. You got your game out of the way on Friday night. Good to see. Joint top, are you with Ballymac?
Yeah, we're going well enough. We have a game now next weekend, but we're trying to get the game called off, but having a bit of difficulty because we're away next weekend, so
I'm missing a few lads.
could put a spanner in the works. Yeah, we're missing.
Not
a
easy.
few.
Not easy. When
You're away yourself, Jim. You're heading off.
Yeah,
Real trip.
into Las Vegas.
Oh, good evening. Live from Vegas, the football pod. Oh,
How are we?
I'll do it by the pool. We have a pool party on Monday, I think, so we'll do it from there.
will you bring the leather jacket on that as well?
We have done this podcast from many corners of the globe, but I don't know. A casino in Vegas, it might be tough to get a hold of you.
Yeah, that'll be a hard sell, Jimmy.
We'll see.
The furthest I recorded from was Louth in Belgium.
That was pretty good, though.
And you're going to Vegas, like.
I did Miami.
Glamour, like.
I did
And
Miami. We
Jesus.
have shown commitment to the cause in this pod.
Yeah, so I think I've done it in New York, done it in Rome. So yeah,
Jesus Christ, boys.
yeah. It's good
Vegas would take the biscuit though, because I don't know what quality content I would be providing from Vegas.
Well, we'll get something out of you. We will get something out of you.
You've come on this show before in rag order. Like, you pull something out of the bag.
I think we all have.
I'll never doubt you, Jimmy. You'll pull something out of the bag.
Were you there? Were you ever there on a trip?
No.
I was there with my wife now. I've never gone with the lads, which is probably the best thing for us.
Yeah,
Do you still have a good time?
That was all right now, yeah.
Okay.
that's mad. It's ain't it?
Who are you going with, James?
There's 20 of us going. There's
Oh, fuck.
yeah, but 20 look after each other, and it's just the right amount. you know?
yeah. Be quiet enough, like.
Or if it's 5 or 6, you could lose 2 or 3. Then you're down to 2 or 3.
And Kerry GAA be big in Vegas, I'd say, is it?
Yeah, we're just doing one dinner dance over there, fundraiser.
You shaking the bucket?
I think so.
We're
The
bringing-
red carpet be rolled out at the Win Casino.
We're bringing Sam over. And we'll have the handout.
I wouldn't put it past you. I
That'll
wouldn't put
be
it
good,
past
no.
you.
That'll be class. Okay, well, I look forward to our pre-production meeting on on Monday afternoon. Did the Kerry County Board ever fix games for a Monday of a bank holiday?
Well, they fix him for the Sunday. That's the default fixture, and then it's between the two clubs then to decide if you go a Saturday or a Monday in your case, which is a random one.
We had a game this evening, lads. It is cruel. Not even in that weather, but cruel on a bank holiday Monday. The Meath County Board used to do it and it kind of stopped. But down in Clare this weekend, they had the hurlers are out on Saturday. The footballers out today. Not easy.
Simply put, that is a disgrace.
It's not fair,
Yeah, but
fellas. And a
it's a
weekend like
disgrace.
this, everyone's gone. Like we did very well to get a team together. This is my chance to say we got our first win of the year. We were 8 points down with 4 to play. We won by a point.
That's the real reason you brought this up.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the
Not to do with the
schedule.
fixtures.
Giving a little mention.
He scored a couple of points himself. Look,
Sean-
how many
Sean
points did you
Gallagher-
score? Go on.
No, it
give-
doesn't
tell
matter
us.
about me. Sean Gallagher got a goal. Keane Maxwell got a goal. And Mikey Brennan won a junior with Kerry. A junior round with Kerry James
yeah.
back in the day. Mikey Brennan ran a half marathon yesterday. And he kicked the winning point in the last minute.
What a man.
There
He's
you
still
go.
going. He's
So
still
I
going
had to
now.
give that a plug. Still going, yeah.
Just
So-
a half marathon.
It's a warm up, like. Do me warm up for that. But isn't
That
that
is
mad?
good going.
Like,
That is good going. Fair play.
play if you're playing on the bank holiday weekend, get it out of the way. Friday evening or play it the Saturday afternoon. Give the lads a go. Jesus, till Monday afternoon.
Friday evenings are the way forward.
Dual clubs, though. You know, it's difficult. Cratloe had a
Well,
senior hurling game on
there
Saturday.
shouldn't be dual clubs. There should be no hurling. Go on. Anyway.
I don't think that'll go down too well in Cratloe. 4 of the minors won with Clare at the weekend. Unbelievable stuff. So
They did.
mentioned to them as well. That was huge for Clare to win that.
Beck
First
Galway,
since
yeah.
the 90s. Yeah, unbelievable.
97, wasn't it? The
Did
last
you
time they
watch
won. No,
the
they
Off-
won the All Ireland in
Yeah.
13 as
The
well.
Offaly
sorry.
boys fell short as well. Just about. Some stuff in Offaly.
They're flying it.
Yeah.
The underage, aren't they?
Hopefully that comes going now and comes to fruition at senior level. Anyways, we had a lot of games to get through. Paddy, you were all over the country, as you mentioned. We might just start with Kerry Cork, James. We were there on Saturday.
We were.
Kerry looked good in the first half. Gainey was playmaking. Shawnee
Hold on.
nicked a couple of points. They looked okay, Paddy.
Did
in the first half.
they look better than Mayo? Than their performance against Mayo?
Yes, but there was good signs in that first half, I thought.
Okay. All right.
But the second half, James, by God, if David Clifford wasn't on that pitch, and if David Goff wasn't on that pitch, Cork were winning that game.
Harsh.
Was it 9-4 at half time or 9-5 at half time?
The 4 points up at half time, and 2 minutes into the second half, that was cut down to 2.
I think Kerry, it was actually a very even game in the first half, if you think about it. It was up and down the field, both sides kind of mirroring each other in styles, but Kerry had more quality up front, in front of the post especially. Shawnee kicked 3 from play, I think, in the first half. David Clifford got 1, Paddy Clifford got 1. And
Paddy got 2, I think, did he? 2 lovely
In the
scores.
first half, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that if you put the Cork fellas in those shooting positions, they would have got half of them maybe. And that was genuinely the difference, because
There was a strong wind as well.
There was, to be fair, and we couldn't really feel it, but because it's swirling wind in kind of Páirc Uí Chaoimh. But like they had a couple of Cork had a couple of chances where they were almost gimmies. It was just a case of just tip that over, and they were going wide. So that's why Kerry went in 4 points up. It wasn't necessarily because Kerry were brilliant.
Okay. What
That would
happened
be
in the
my
second
take
half,
on
then?
it.
What happened then in the second half?
Second half, they just didn't come out of the dressing room firing. Cork obviously went in and got a right G up at half time, and they said, lads, we'll throw it all out there for 15 minutes and see if we're going to be in the reckoning at the end, which was 100% the right tactic. That's what they didn't have last year. They were plodding along, kind of staying in the game, but didn't have any spurt to actually draw a level or go ahead. But this time they did, because they made the substitutions. They brought on McSweeney, they brought on Sherlock, they got the scores, and they were right in the game at that stage. But it does all come down to the penalty decision, and everyone is disagreeing on it. Cork, of course, are saying there should never have been a penalty. Why implement that rule for the first time in that game of all games?
Second time, David Goff awarded a penalty. It was much more straightforward between Monaghan and Mayo in the league. Do you remember in the last minute?
Yes.
Keeper was out of goals and pulled him down. But the rule book is clear, lads. If a goal scoring opportunity is denied, penalty and a black card.
Yeah, it is clear when you look at the rule. It's just we're just so unfamiliar with it because it's never used. But the thing is, everyone is kind of saying what would have happened, but that's not really the argument, because nothing happened because there was a foul. So that's the whole point of it. That whatever everyone's saying, he might have scored, he might not have scored, he might have fisted it across. It doesn't matter. He had options. It was a goal scoring opportunity. He was taken down. As we said before we came on, it doesn't have to be overly cynical a tackle or deny a certain goal. It's just a goal scoring chance, and if it's a foul, then it's a black card and a penalty. So
I don't know if I like that rule though.
Really?
No, I get it if it's defined a cynical foul. We all remember the famous Sean Kavanagh foul on was it Conor McManus?
It was McManus, yeah.
Where it's blatant. It's like a handball in soccer, a blatant goal chance, and it's intentional. If it's just a badly timed tackle, I agree. Like that was given by Goff. It's so rare that it's actually given, but by the rule book, you could say, well, that's a penalty. And then literally 2 hours later, with the exact same thing happening in Nolan Park with Dublin and Kildare, and it's not given. It's that consistency which drives managers crazy. And if you're Cork, of course, you're like, this happens in loads of games, and it's never given. And there's their championship on the line. If they beat Kerry, they're through. They can nearly top the group. You know, it's such an impact. So you can see the frustration on Cork's side. But I think the rule, if it's a badly timed tackle or it's a last gasp lunge, I don't like it. Whereas if it's just a blatant, I'm just going to jump on your back.
Yeah.
Because it's a goal, then I understand the rule. But I just, like for David Goff, we know how rigid he can be with the rules, which I suppose that's his job. But I can tell you, there's a lot of referees, inter-county referees, would not have made that call on Saturday. And that's, if you're Cork, you are pissed off with that. Of course you are.
See, there's sorry, Tommy, go on.
If Goff is consistent in applying that rule, I think fair enough. And the rest of the referees should be then. The issue is the rest of the referees. Like I think
they're not, Tommy.
James, you pointed it out. Gainey hits the deck very quickly. He's saying it. Goff takes his time, speaks to the umpires. Do you know, we had that freeze frame, that screenshot, and there is 2 Cork defenders tracking back. But Paddy Clifford's at the back post.
They don't have a clue that Paddy Clifford is at the back post, Cork, because Paddy is literally waving his hands. And then he wanted a quick free to just tip it to him so he could tap it in. They still, even when the foul was given, they didn't even know the Paddy was at the back post. Yeah. So it was a goal chance.
I can empathise with Cork.
That is the thing. It was a goal chance. He brought him down. Powder was the one that made the mistake. I think that's key in it as well. And he's so intent on stopping the attack. He said, because I've been in that situation, you give away a bad ball, you're like, oh no, please, no, just don't give me the ultimate punishment here. And he got even worse than the ultimate punishment. The ultimate punishment would have been a goal. And he got a black card and a goal. So you do feel sorry for them, but it's just it's in black and white.
If you go outside of that, okay, the referee's decision, and this happens in loads of championship games, there's contentious calls and the losing team is obviously annoyed about it. The wider thing you're looking at is we wanted a response from Kerry after, like we all agreed, one of their worst championship performances in years in Killarney a couple of weeks beforehand. And the reality is they maybe a little bit better defensively, but as I say, I think Cork still caused them lots of trouble with runners from deep.
Yeah.
And they just didn't have the tools up front to kill it, particularly in the first half. Okay, I get there's a bit of a breeze, but there were still opportunities for Cork to tag on far more scores than they did in that first half. I think the positive thing, Sean Shea, probably his best game year to date for the first half, most certainly, that you could see there was a reaction there from him. Paddy Clifford was a bit more effective further up the pitch. We know he does all the link play and all that stuff. So they're positives from the opening 35 minutes from Kerry, but that second half again, you're looking, and we said it last week, there was 2 changes to the team. And I'm sure if Jack O'Connor was looking at it and he really fancied the depth of the squad, he could have changed 10 lads. But it's that, there was a question mark over Kerry going into that game, and it's still massive. There's still that massive question mark there. I don't think they really answered anything from that performance on Saturday. They've got 2 points, which they obviously needed to do. They play Louth the next day. You'd fancy them still to come through it, but in terms of a real bounce back performance, that definitely wasn't it.
I think I've been in dressing rooms where it goes not stale, but it needs a freshen up somewhere. It just needs something new that everyone can go, do you know what, this might just work, or this is exciting. But if you keep trying to chase and chase and chase the kind of the same thing, it doesn't. You're never going to get there. You know, you're not, because everyone else has changed a bit, and Kerry kind of haven't really done that much different. So I think the only way that Kerry can go to the next level again is probably to put something nice and fresh and new in there, and that's for Jack to come up with. It has to be something exciting for the players.
It's very hard to do that though, Jimmy, isn't it? Like the hardest 2 weeks till they play Loud, and the reality is, with Mayo winning, although not overly convincingly, Mayo will top this group and go to the quarters. Kerry could be like, there's no time to implement things now. Kerry could be playing 3-4 weeks on the bounce, and it's literally just recovery. There's no new tactical innovations happening like that. I think for Kerry to have any sort of real chance of winning this All-Ireland, look, we kind of knew this at the start. They're going to be hanging their hat on Clifford going bananas, and then Sean O'Shea doing it with them.
Stepping up,
and they can do that. That's those guys are of that high a quality, that can happen. But then you're like the defensive solidity. We Paddy Tally on this podcast last year after the All-Ireland win, all through last season, the Tyke Morley thing was working. The man-to-man battles the Kerry defenders were winning. There was just an edge in their defence. Like the reality, you can dress it up anyway. That is not there, and it hasn't been there all season. And I agree, Jimmy. You want something new to kind of the players go, right, this is it. This is what we're going to hang our hat on. There's no time to do that. There's no time to do that now. So it's a case of, we know Jack is not going to change the team because he doesn't really have. He can't. The quality, you're looking through the Kerry bench, there's not 5 or 6 guys that go, well, we're going to play and we're going to change it. It's going to be on these guys that we've seen week in, week out, and that we've seen it in Porky on Saturday. It's going to be on them to find something themselves to get those 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 performances. And if they do that, they've got a chance, because that's how good those players can be. But I think it's a big ask. And I would be, as a Kerry supporter, if I was coming out of Porky, I'd be nearly more worried after that performance, that there wasn't that big, massive energy and bounce back after Killarney and the Mayo defeat. So there's a lot of work for them to do.
I still think that there is a lot of, not negativity, but there's question marks around Kerry, which is no harm, because it keeps everyone kind of on their toes. If they were being patted on the back and told they were great at this stage, then it would lead to kind of even more of a relaxed kind of an attitude and maybe a bit of a downer. But I think the way they're being questioned and the pressure they're under now to perform might be something that can get them going. You know, they're kind of against the odds. I've seen teams, especially from the north, you know, they kind of buy into that. We're being questioned. The whole country thinks we're not at it. They're writing us off. We're all Ireland champions. Like there's something in that even. There's ways to go at this for Kerry if they really think about it. I don't think it's the end of the world they're not playing well. The talent in that dressing room on the field is there. It's just a matter of tapping into something to get the players just that extra bit of fire in the belly, I think. Maybe.
A spark, isn't it? They're lacking a spark, and they need to find that by hook or by crook. Like I think they'll beat Louth in 2 weeks' time. But then they're in a preliminary quarter-final. Again, you'd fancy them to come through that, but I'd worry about them in the biggest games. If they're playing at the level they're currently playing at, like we've seen it against one of the top teams, they were absolutely wiped by Mayo. I'd fear for them unless they find that spark and they find it quickly. But in defence of Kerry, and again this weekend, you're looking across all the teams, they're all in the same boat. There was no one, we said it last week, there's no one grabbing this thing by the scruff of the neck and saying, we're the front runners, chest out, you guys have to catch us. And even Galway, who we said were probably in that situation, they weren't great against Westmeath to get the job done. The Dubs were a little bit better to get the job done against Kildare, but again, it's not a big standout performance, and maybe we're not going to see that, guys. Maybe just with the nature of this championship, teams just have to just tick the boxes and progress. Because the other thing you noticed, a prediction from being down at Nolan Park on Saturday night, like teams are getting lots and lots of knocks and niggles, and the heat, the schedule, players are being put under pressure. I'd say every coach across the country and player is delighted that there's a 2-week gap to try and just regroup, just see where we're at, get the bodies back and get ready, because there's this 2-week gap and then it's the finishing straight. It's flat to the mat. So I think everyone would be very grateful to try and regroup and get some bodies and bits, injuries and niggles and things like that, because all the teams seem to be suffering from this, not just Kerry.
If Kerry gets second in the group, which is probably most likely, obviously there can Louth might upset things, or Cork, whatever, but then they'll be looking at a Clarny game against Donegal probably, or Armagh or Kildare, you think. So one of those, Donegal, Armagh, Kildare, realistically is. And again, there could be changes to any of that, but that's probably Armagh would be worst case scenario for Kerry to get it home in a prelim. So I mean, there's no easy game from here. You just have to.
There shouldn't be. Everyone's waiting for this bloody chapter to get going. It's like the shadow boxing's over, but not really. Next week,
I think the preliminary game is where it's really going to be on. Then you see a bit of fear. You need a bit of fear. There's no fear.
Jeopardy. I think that's all very fair analysis from the two of you. We are learning about this. There is no fear yet, and I wonder if the frighteners are put on Kerry.
But
maybe it might be too late at that stage.
Yeah,
and it's the same with Dublin. But I feel
like put it this way, lads. No team is going to want to play Kerry.
No,
even if they're not playing well.
Yeah,
they have. We know the quality they have. Even if they're not going well, there's nobody there going. If Kerry come out of the hat for a team, they're going to be like, fuck. Yeah. There's easier draws, even though they're not at their best. And the big thing, lads, like Clifford and Sean O'Shea, even though Sean O'Shea probably hasn't been at his best, we know it's in there.
Well, Fitzmaurice,
and those boys could click, and you are under pressure then. Any defence in the country is under pressure if that happens.
Fitzmaurice had a great line in his Examiner column today about David Clifford. He said, "What I learned about him being involved with Fussell last year is that he delivers most when the need is greatest. He is happy to let others at it in games where everything is going to plan. But as soon as he feels that his team needs a bit more, he grabs hold of the game and bends it to his will." And we've seen that in the second half against Mayo, where he nearly produced a goal or two to pull them back into it. And again at the weekend, he's doing it.
Do you know what I thought was interesting about that?
Yeah,
do you remember when we had Mark O'Connor on?
Yeah.
And he was saying that he was a bit like that. And he had to actually change his mindset over there because they were putting pressure on him to not be like that.
Be more consistent.
Yeah, which was funny. And it is such a great trait to have, that when it does get hot, that's when you get hot. Do you know, it's when you're at it.
It's a great trait to have. I'd rather have that than
100%. Yeah. But I wonder when it's
the
not,
fan, I'm going to deliver like.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, but I definitely agree with that with Clifford. He turns it on when he needs to.
Who was did you have a fella like that, Paddy, or was there a personality like that in the Dublin team that could just turn it on, that didn't always have to do it but would turn it on?
I think I remember one of the big examples of it was Bernard Brogan in 13, where he was kind of, obviously he was player of the year in 10, obviously important in 11, probably not his best year in 12, and in 13 he had a load of injuries. It was kind of quiet, groin injuries, couldn't really train a lot, and you could see it in his performances, Leinster Championship and stuff like that, All-Ireland quarter-final against Cork, like really struggling. And then we played Kerry in the semi. I think he scored 4 or 5 points from play, and he got man of the match in the final then against me. He scored 2-3. Yeah. And it was like, I just remember taking that going, the pressure he was under, and he wasn't going well. Like that was the reality of it. But the biggest games, Kerry, Croker, he delivered and that's what I would rather have. Every team, every coach would love a player like that when it's on the line, you have someone who's gonna, no problem, I'll deal with this. And you look at all the successful teams, there's always a couple of guys like that. But I agree with Fitzmaurice. I think Clifford does it every day anyway. 99% of the time, even in lesser games, he still does. We said there's 3 or 4 exceptional things. And look, like, it's nothing that we said at the start of the year. If Kerry are going to win the All-Ireland, he is going to be a massive, massive part of it. No more so than what he was like last season. But it's that thing of they need more. They need more from around them. That's the reality of it. They need Shawnee back playing his best. They need Paddy clipping in with 2 or 3 points, and they need a bit out of it. Whether it's Gainey or Spillane, these guys, 2 or 3 points from them as well, because it can't just be Clifford. They're not. If it is just him and Shawnee Shea doesn't get back to the levels he was at last season, they're not going to win it. Yeah. That's no chance.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to rattle through the results here from the All-Ireland Series, lads. Derry 3-14, Donegal 1-15. Really respectable performance in Donegal. Ushing Gallen, we got a glimpse of this Goslin's talent. He's been plagued by injuries over the last couple of years. I think he kicked 9 maybe points there at the weekend. Donegal just a little short up front, but you know they were with Derry for quite a bit of that game. I'm going to come back to the Roscommon game after I go through the results, but 10-point win against Sligo, 121-111. Mayo, a 1-point win against Louth. Something happened on the TV coverage where they actually had the scoreboard wrong, and I think even maybe the commentary had it wrong. And for a moment, when Conor Grimes sent that ball over the bar, thought it was the equaliser, do you know? And actually, in McHale Park, I was talking to one of my Louth friends today. The clock was wrong, so they actually thought they had another 2 minutes left. So the scoreboard was wrong on the TV, and the clock was wrong in the stadium. So there was a bit of confusion there at the end.
If they had another few minutes, there was another point in them. Like,
there was, absolutely. And Mayo kind of coasted through that game in second, third gear, and next thing they're nearly caught by Louth. So Louth again showing resilience. They learned their lesson from the Dublin game. They had everybody back.
What did we say about Mayo?
Struggled against the blanket, and they
Did they? I think we've said that before on this podcast, and people giving out to us about it. That is the reality of it. And again, there was nothing we seen yesterday from Mayo to suggest that's their Achilles heel. They're brilliant at loads of different things, but I said it, and people slating me about it. They out of the top teams, they are the weakest playing against that type of defence, and I think that is going to cost them. That is going to. If you were playing Mayo, what would you do? You know,
you get bodies back.
You get bodies back and play them on the break, and you'd have, no disrespect to Leo, but there'd be better probably players on the transition, and they have a lot of front. Yeah, and I think that's where Mayo are going to get caught.
What I would say, Paddy, about that,
and Kerry, do they have time to figure it out? I haven't seen any.
I think they do. I think they do.
I'm not sure they're going to bother. But I'm not sure they're going to bother. They never have bothered.
Well, it's been an issue for them for 5 years. They haven't done it. So
if he doesn't address it, it's a mistake, because it's the easiest defensive system to train for, because you don't need any quality, say, to train against it on the other side. You know, like you can set fellas up to replicate it for short spells. It obviously takes a huge effort to do it for 70 minutes, but in terms of training for it, you can set people up in that defensive unit for 5 or 10 minutes at a time and play the scenarios. So I think it's an easy system to train against.
It's hard to break down, though, isn't it?
It is hard to break down. But because we did it loads of times, especially in the 14 final against Donegal. We trained there for 3 weeks. Honestly, I was fit for retirement at that stage. It was depressing, but it had to be done. And I even think we almost overdid it. But in hindsight, it was the right thing, because it was a final. Like, you had to go above and beyond for it. But I think they can train for that, no problem.
We were the same, Jim. Remember our famous game against Tyrone in 17, the All-Ireland semi-final. The same thing. Those 3 week gaps where every single minute on the pitch was around playing against that type of defence. But we'd been working on it really for a couple of years since we lost to Donegal in 2014. So the idea that you could kind of master it in there's no gap between games. Maybe we'll probably top the group, so they might have 2 weeks till they play a quarter final. But I think this has been an issue for years. You know, it's not like this is the first time it's reared its head.
Well, in fairness,
I just think in Mayo's defence, if you think like Dublin play on the front foot, Kerry play on the front foot, Galway could probably bring bodies back. When you get to a stage, like if Mayo play Kerry, I don't see Kerry turning around and playing 12 bodies back. No, they might.
I think they might.
They might have to happen in Killarney, but I just think if it's a wide open game, we've said this so many times, Mayo are as good as anyone, but I think that's what's going to catch them. And yesterday it was just, I was looking at it going, I've seen this before so many times.
Well, Loud threw 2 sheets and the duvet for the blanket there. Like, did you see them concede that kick out where they had
They
absolutely
all went
everybody
back to their own 45 nearly.
Yeah, it was reckless, but they did what they had to do, you know. And we might come back to that in a second, doing what you have to do. Monaghan, Clare was a cracker. Got to look at a bit of this. Jack McCarron, I'm going to use the word again, and you did quote me correctly last week. Jack McCarron put on a clinic. 8 points from play. I'm not sure you saw the crossfield assist he had.
Yeah,
It's
it was
the type
nice.
of pass we'd have hammered a fella over if he didn't get it right. Absolutely gorgeous. Off his right foot. I've said it before, he's got one of the best left feet in the country. Off the right foot. Glorious. That's McCarron, who was dropped last week against Derry for the draw. Restored to the starting lineup this weekend. I actually put it to John Cleary, chatting to him afterwards, the Cork Kerry game, about the lack of shooters in the first half. And, you know, why didn't you start Stephen Sherlock? And the answer he gave me was horses for courses. Stephen started plenty of games in the league, started against Clare.
He said he wanted to finish strong as well, wasn't
He
it?
said he wanted to finish strong and horses for courses. And obviously that's what Vinnie Corey, the approach he took as well. James, you reckon that's the party line. I wonder, is there room for corner forwards of that ilk anymore? Like, is there room for it?
Not against Derry, not against the way Derry play. I agree. We said this. I think managers lie to your face a lot in the middle of the championship, but I think that's.
You
I
are
agree with that.
outstanding, but we're going to rest you the weekend.
Even at the end of a few days off Jim Gavin, like you're flying it, but you should probably play at the club at the weekend. So the club have a match. Get a bit of sharp. So I told you, I don't trust anything the manager says in the championship. But I do agree with horses for courses, particularly in these games. And look, Vinnie Curry's proven right. For the challenge that Derry brought against Monaghan, McInnesby, Shane Kerry and these guys, more legs, more energy. We've seen it because the previous month they got their arses handed to them up at Oma. And it just didn't suit McManus and McCarron. They've brilliant skill sets, but that's not their biggest strengths. And Derry targeted that. That was it. They turned it around, they changed it. This week, Clare provided a very different balance to what Derry do. And we know Jack McCarron can score. That's never an issue. It's more the athleticism around the pitch. But this game didn't require that. So if you're Vinnie Curry going, yes, in you go. And it worked. If you're Jack McCarron, you're like, oh, jeez. Every player wants to play every match.
Yeah.
But that's the responsibility of the coach. So I do agree. I think they're telling the truth in that regard, that it is horses for courses.
Well, the quality of score taken in that game was a joy to watch. Conor O'Connor kicked 4 from midfield. McCarron kicked 8 from play. Michal Bannigan's been pulling the strings. He kicked 3 points.
Yeah.
Conor McCarthy, again, coming from wing back, finished up at 1-2, really well taken goal. So that's
I think
Clare
that's what
out
cost,
altogether.
say, Cork in the last day. They left out Sherlock, say, right, which was the standout example. I'm not sure how much how much of a prolific scorer he is as opposed to Sherlock, but say they left Sherlock out. They needed the scores then from somewhere else, like Monaghan did. They had scores from Carl O'Connell. They had scores from other fellas around the field. Cork didn't have the scores from around the field. So that's the difference. Like, horses for courses, absolutely, but you still need to. I always do it when I'm looking at teams. Like, how many points are in this team? Who's going to get 2, 1, 2, 1, maybe a goal chance? And if you take out your main scoring threat, you have to add it somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
the long and short of it.
In fairness to Cleary and to Kevin Walsh and to yourself for picking them as your team to watch, we are seeing some good signs from Cork. And it is, Cleary made the point to me as well, chatting afterwards. Like, they're trying to implement a new game plan. They have matches week on week on week, from McGrath Cup to the league to the championship. So it hasn't been easy. I think they got that bit of a break after the loss to Clare. So we're starting to see the fruits of that a little bit. So there's probably good signs in Cork that might come. Moving on to Saturday's games. Tyrone, 13 points. Armagh, 11. Again, this was a funny game. Rian O'Neill sent off. Another Tyrone game where we're not getting a full read on them because they're not getting a 15 on 15. Loads of good stuff from Tyrone. Darragh Canavan stood up, laid on, showed a bit of leadership. Brilliant point. 2 brilliant points laid on. But Armagh, again, they left it too late. Nearly came back into it, nearly caught them with 14 men. Rian O'Neill obviously is going to miss a couple of games. I'm not sure if he got sent off for the knees dropping onto Cormac Quinn or the little punch that happened around it, but he's definitely missing 1 game anyway.
I missed the
1
punch.
games.
There was a little rabbit punch in there.
So he'll miss the Galway game.
He's been held, to be fair, but-
You'd expect Galway to win that anyway and top the group. So Armagh likely now they'll finish 3rd, you would say.
More than likely, yeah.
Preliminary quarter final. Like I say, it could be against Kerry. If Rian O'Neill gets 2 games, they're under serious pressure. Look, I don't think I think Saturday was another confirmation that they're just a little bit short. I expected Tyrone to win that one. I don't know why. I kind of trust the Tyrone. It's more Canavan and McCurry and these guys that they can. I think they're top quality, top players. But they are. I think those two lads are serious forwards. And I know we're very biased here as full forwards, but if you've guys like that in your team, you look at it, Cork don't have it really. Kildare didn't have it the other. If you're someone who you give them a chance, they're going to nail it. You've got a chance. You've got a chance, and that's why I'd have Tyrone ahead of Armagh. So we expect them to win that game. For Armagh, it's just another near miss, isn't it? It's like, yeah, they could have won the game. Their discipline was a bit better. Could have opportunities, but they didn't. And that's not a story just for this season. It seems like a story for the last number of years with Armagh. They're right up against it. And losing Rian O'Neill, like I don't think they'd beat Galway anyway. Even if Rian O'Neill was there, I don't think they'd beat Galway. But it's just a disappointing one. It doesn't seem like they've really recovered from that Ulster final.
No.
We said it was big. They were really flat the week before against Westmeath in the athletic grounds. They're probably lucky to get a win, and then to lose to their nearest rivals there as well. It's just there's a lot of body blows they're taking here, and it's hard to. I don't see them recovering and having. Like, would you put Armagh? Do you think Armagh can get to a semi-final from this route?
At the moment, it's the most difficult route. They've got the Ulster final, they've lost the Ulster final, they've had that blow, and now they're going to go into a preliminary round game. It's been a tough run.
I don't see them making a semi.
Did Armagh actually played the Ulster preliminary round as well. So Armagh, the longest run of the championship.
Flat out, yeah.
But the history of teams going well for the game after, or maybe even the second game after, losing a provincial final, it always does have a severe hangover because of the disappointment of it. So you'd be hoping that they'll come right yet, but you're right, they just haven't shown enough. But you think about Tyrone, with all the good forwards they have, playing against 14 the last day, and they only kicked 13 points. Yeah, there has to be more in them. They have to be getting in for that goal to give them a little bit of breathing room in every game.
Yeah, they were unlucky. They were unlucky with one or two efforts. Petey Hart hit the inside of the post just before the sending off.
That was some effort, in fairness.
Yeah, I like the way he took it.
Punted at that pace is not easy. And he actually directed it perfectly as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was unlucky. Lads, I'm going to read out the last three results, but we're going to talk about them after the break. So, Galway 20 points, Westmeath 12. Westmeath are actually leading that game at half time. Going to come back to that afterwards. Dublin 22, Kildare 13. And we've already spoken about Kerry 114, Cork 15 points. So we're going to come back and talk about the Rossies, Galway and Dublin, and the Tailteann Cup final round games and the preliminary draw right after this break. Alright, you are very welcome back to episode 23 of the Football Pod, brought to you every week by AIB, proud sponsors of the Senior Football Championship. Check out #TheToughest for more. Paddy, you got to see the Rossies in action this week again. You were impressed with them the week beforehand. Just want to read out what Davy Burke had to say after the game, the GAAGO, because Mark O'Shea asked him, Davy, what has been the difference this year at Roscommon since you've come in? Because beforehand, he didn't say they were the West Brom of the GA, which is what you christened them on this show, but he said there was a bit of a yo-yo element about Roscommon. So
all the Rossies, your own manager said it about.
No. Mark said it.
Okay, right.
So Davy Burke responded, very forthright. I really like this answer. The difference was every Tuesday night, regardless of the result on the Sunday, every single man must be on the field doing a full session. In previous years, you know yourself, maybe that wasn't the case. There'd be a few fellas who might mind themselves. But every single Tuesday, we've got 41 players on the field, regardless of how the previous game went. And that's it. It's non-negotiable. They've all bought into it. If you're consistent every Tuesday and Thursday, you'll be consistent on the Sunday. And every man across the board is just given 100%, and our depth is there. You can see it. We're not afraid to go deep into the squad if we feel we need to. And the players are very aware of that. I love that.
Yeah.
Simple. You can clearly see it's paying off. Do you think it's a fair answer? Would you put it down to that bit of edge, that bit of strength that we're seeing?
If you look at it, they are far more consistent. That's the nature of it. They've won tight games in the National League. They finished third, possibly could have got into a league final. Take out Mayo, they were just a bit short against Galway. I think Galway was a really controlled performance by Galway. You feel like that's what nearly cements Galway's place, that they can win games, they can control games like that. Why they're one of the favourites for the All-Ireland. But for Roscommon, there's no doubt there's been progress in them. 100%. It's evident what we've seen so far in the first 6 months of the season. And for what I seen yesterday, again, even though it was wasn't as straightforward as maybe I would have thought going into that game. I thought they beat Sligo. They win by 10 points in the end. But Sligo, Alan Riley's goal keeps them right in it.
For sure.
Coming into the final quarter. But if I look, Conor Carroll is a serious goalkeeper, boys. His kickouts, and Sligo going at, he's a brilliant goalkeeper on his kickouts. Roscommon are really good on the opponent's kickouts as well. We see that, like, they eviscerated Galway's kickouts, even though they lost that game.
Mayo.
Destroyed, but like they're two massive parts of the game, and it's clear improvement. Their defensive shape is really good, really good. We seen it yesterday in person again, and it was the same against Dublin. It's kind of seamless how they move. If the ball is coming down one wing, on the opposite side, it'll be Niall Daly who drops in and sweeps in front of the full back line in front of Brian Stack, is usually picking up the most dangerous marker. If it's the other side, it's David Murray dropping in, and it's not a big song and dance. It's quite seamless how it happens, and it kind of needs to be like that, particularly against the top teams. So there's just an organisation in their offensive play. And for all the negativity around the comments last week, the latest outrage in the GAA, Jesus, the game's gone mad because Roscommon kept the ball, they can play it the other way as well, and you've seen it again yesterday. They're really well set, and any time they turn Sligo over, they're looking for a long kick pass straight away. A really, really fast transition. Ben O'Carroll, who's probably not the most natural shooter. He's not.
Can I make a point here? Because actually, a friend of mine texted me, O'Donoghue Senior, texted me and said, give Paddy a heads up. Ben O'Carroll is actually the top scorer in the Roscommon Senior Championship for the last 2 years.
I don't care about the Roscommon Club Championship. I'm watching senior inter-county football.
He's changed
I think
his
he
game.
got the first point for Roscommon in the championship yesterday. So he's not a sharpshooter inter-county.
Well, I think what he's done is he's changed.
Brilliant for the club stuff. I'm giving him credit here at what he does. He is exceptional in the role he's playing for Roscommon as that outlet. He's the guy who's given license to stay up, and his energy and his movement, his agility, and his ball winner. He's a ball winner. We said this about Ian Burke. He's not Kieran Donaghy, but he is out in front, and he is that outlet. So for Roscommon turn teams over, he is the outlet there, and he can shift it off. I don't think Davy Burke is asking him to kick 10 points from play. He's popping it off to the Murtas and the Smiths, who we always talk about. And it's just, these are things that are really, really important for a team to have at the highest level. And they're the big improvements. You put all of it together, we've always said this, they have technical forwards who can score. We see it again from Enda Smith, the two Murtas. They're not relying on just one guy. They have guys that can score, like what you're saying, Jimmy, 3 or 4 points from play each. They are a handful for any team. And obviously Davy Burke's answer, he's getting at that kind of the mentality where there's a bit more edge to them. But there's just as a team, they're a really good unit. Defensively, they're smooth. Up front, that shape that Carroll gives them, along with the shooters. They tick a lot of boxes. And yesterday, they win by 10 points. They go into the final round of games, a point ahead of them on score difference. Now, they probably have the tougher of the two games that they play Kildare, who were... Again, Kildare probably not a great performance from them in Nolan Park, but for Roscommon, it's another positive day for them. And I'm impressed them that they're kick passing. They've shown they can do the really dour stuff to keep the ball, but they can play the other way as well. And I think a team needs to have that. A team needs to have different ways of playing. We've said it earlier on this podcast. You feel Mayo might get caught by not having that one in their locker. But Roscommon, from what I've seen again, it was an impressive day for them in the end.
Can we stick on O'Carroll there for a second? Because I think this could be interesting coming from you. When he broke on initially, like he was that type of player coming up underage, that kind of target man, sharpshooter. Sorry, not a target man, but that guy that would get you the points and the scores. But we know that Roscommon have the Murtons, the Smiths that can do it. You obviously would have changed your game as a forward for Dublin as the years went on. That's a really impressive thing that at that age, Ben O'Carroll has been able to change his game to suit inter-county football. What his manager needs now.
It's partly from him, but I'm sure it's from the coaches as well. I was a great scorer in the club championship as well, Tommy.
I well believe it.
Loads of good players like that, but he's not being asked to do that.
Yeah.
You can see, and in terms of, is he a better shooter than either of the Murtas? No, he's not. But the role he plays in the team, it's what we're talking about, complementary forwards. It's why Ian Burke is so important for Galway, that he, again, part of the choice isn't turning around to him going, score 10 points. Jim Gavin used to say to me, he goes, I don't need you to score 5-6 points from play. We have other guys who'll do that, but I need you to do this. I need you to get out to that ball, because we want to move the ball up the pitch quickly. And you can see it with Ben O'Carroll. He'd be a nightmare to mark.
Yeah.
But they give him the license. Everyone else comes back and says, you just stay up there. It's a great role to have, lads. Like, you don't need to tackle back, because if we turn these over, we're going to launch it to you, and then you just need to hold it up away for the cavalry to arrive. But that's a team. That's a clear tactic. The player needs to understand it. He needs to have the ability to do it. The coach needs to see it, and the other players need to buy into it. And that's what you see from Roscommon. The way they defend, the way they attack, the way they set up on both kickouts. That's all tactics. And all of it goes to shit if players don't believe in it. And it's clear it's a complementary relationship between Davy Burke, Mark McHugh, the other selectors,
Jerry McGowan,
and those players. And no more so than Kerry. Nobody's going to fancy playing the Rossies. That's real. I don't think they'll have enough, just because they're kind of coming from nowhere to win the whole thing. I don't, but they could take out any one of the big teams.
Yeah, you definitely need to be around there a couple of years, don't you, in the semi-finals and
I
finals
think
before you
so,
get over the line. But even with O'Carroll, like, he's not there long. Like, his progression as a player in his own personal development probably will be the next step in terms of kicking his scores and getting in for more. Like, he's very fresh on the scene to have the full package. The bit he's doing now is far more important to his team. That's the point, isn't it? But like,
he's so important.
Yeah,
you can see from watching them the last 2 weekends, he's a vital cog. And if you haven't seen him, you might think, oh well, he's not scoring. He's in the full forward line and scores. He's not scoring a lot, but the role he's playing is so important to him.
it is. But if he goes away in the winter, say forget about this season, whatever happens will happen. But he'll go away in the winter, and that will be something that he'll say, right, I can add this. Maybe if I can get more shots off from this area, or maybe I can go on the loop a bit more. He can add little things in, but he has such a good base of what he's doing at the moment to grow on. Like, as it's an exciting place for him as a player to be. But for Roscommon, I'd love to be, I would say, a fly on the wall in the dressing room at the moment. What's Burke saying to them in terms of where they're going this year? Is he selling them, we're in this thing, we're going to rattle it, or is he trying to keep their feet in the ground and say, look, next game? Because in that interview with Mark O'Shea, he basically said we can beat anyone, but we might not be ready to beat everyone in a row. Do you know? But he said we can beat anyone. Is he saying that to the players in the dressing room?
So he agrees with us. We should get him on the pod, lads. He's agreeing with everything we're saying. Like. Yeah. All the Rossies fans, stop fucking coming after me now. Your own coach is agreeing with us.
Paddy.
But it'd be interesting to see what he's actually saying to the players, because, as you said, they seem to have something good going. But what's the end goal for this team? Do they see Sam Maguire? Like, honestly, in their heart of hearts, do they actually see that?
Yes. Do they need to see it?
Yes, yes, you do.
If you're going to win it,
you need it to be your breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah,
like
that's when you're from Kerry and Dublin. That's when you're from Kerry and Dublin.
That's why Kerry and Dublin win it.
When you've shared 75 All Irelands between you over the last 120 years, like that's like
if you're going to win it, you need to be
all in.
All in.
You can't think we might. We could. We might win. No, it's your everything. Chance. It's your everything.
Okay. And I agree.
Back into my box. I've never won one.
But I am intrigued. Maybe he is.
It's a good question.
If he comes in like a whirlwind there at the end, because he was late in, we said this, and he comes in, he's sitting on the Hyde or wherever they met, and goes, boys, we're going to try and, our goal is to win the All Ireland. Because remember, Joyce came in and said it straight off the bat with Galway.
Yeah. And that's what gets the players going. That's what you respond to. If you get a lukewarm message,
we're looking to get to a semi. But lads, do you know what? You laugh. This is what I cannot get over with the Irish rugby team. It's like all they talk about is winning a quarter final. Yeah. It is pathetic. Like, it's embarrassing. That mentality, like that's. And I listen to the players' interviews and stuff. We're hoping to get to a semi. We want to break the hoodoo of winning a quarter final. I'm like, are you winding me up? That's your goal going into the biggest tournament of your life. Get past the quarters. Like,
that might be the party line for them as well, though, as in prepared one, is it?
I hope so. I really.
But there's definitely different things being said outside the dressing room versus in the dressing room. That's why I'd love to hear actual conversation from in the dressing room. It'd be interesting because McHugh would bring something different as well. He has a winner's mentality, I think, and he has McGuinness as he had McGuinness as a coach. And the leaning that he had on him, so that is an interesting.
Davy Burke won the 20s All Ireland, winning an All Ireland. Mark McHugh obviously was there. Donegal's was famous for 2012.
They have a very good background team. And another thing, and I think it feeds into we're going to move off to Ross here for a second, but it feeds into the depth that Davy Burke is talking about. There's fellas there like Dylan Ruan and Eddie Nolan and Eddie McCormick who've been around the panel for a couple of years, and they're actually you talk about freshening up what Kerry or maybe other teams need. Burke has freshened it up now with a couple of players who have served their apprenticeships and now they're actually providing.
And they're in key
really
positions
good
too
base.
as well, like
And
central positions, like big parts of the team. Like
I'm a big fan of Keane McKeown as well, Paddy. I really like that guy. Yeah, like
got a couple of lovely ones yesterday now.
Exactly, he's mixing it up as well.
But I would say, and just last thing on Roscommon, I'll say, like I said about the top teams beating their lesser rivals, I wouldn't give Roscommon too much credit now for beating Sligo by 10 points. Do you know?
No.
Let's
But I think,
clear that.
yeah,
like,
that's fair.
It's
I
a
think
win
everyone
for
got a
them.
job done
It's
this
2
weekend.
points, but we're not going to base anything they're going to do this year on that game.
The favourites
No,
all won
but
that game.
it's more just the way they're playing. Whether it was against Sligo yesterday or not, there's key areas of the game, biggest matches. Your own kick out needs to be rock solid. Can you get steals at the opponent's kick out? That's a massive part of it. Can you vary your game? Because different teams are going to create, particularly when you get to the cream of the crop, semi-finals, finals, teams are going to understand you inside out. Can you tweak it? Do you have the players and the ability and the kind of the know-how to play it? Well, if they do that, we can do this. I'm seeing glimpses of this all through the season for them. They're all important parts of winning in All-Ireland. And they're maybe not the best at any of those things, but they're on the right track in all of them. And they're key areas. And that's why you're looking at why there's a reservation about Galway. I think that Galway's own kick-out is an issue for them. Yeah. I think this idea of just we put big lads in the middle and lump it out, that was great for Meath in the 90s, like, or the 80s, you know what I mean? You need to have more to your game than that. And that's why, yes, you expect them to beat Sligo yesterday. But again, there's just things they're working on that you can see they are in the conversation.
Yeah.
I think Galway might be going back for their goalie.
Yeah, lads.
He left that one.
What a loss.
It was the 20 goalkeeper for Galway, and he's still playing in the club.
It's been often said.
How did they?
What happened there?
He's the best keeper in Galway. I think just strong Roscommon connections, really. I think is what happened.
He's playing for Galway in the 20s, like
Something
playing
about a
club
car and
football.
a job or something like that, was it?
He did leave the hide in a Ferrari there yesterday, so a yellow and blue Ferrari.
Helicopter.
Wow.
But he's good, boys. He's because they were putting the press on him, and he's cool.
Yeah, it's
He
not
is
bad.
cool Conor Carroll in his blue and yellow Ferrari.
Yeah, flying down the road.
Let's quickly breeze through Galway and Dublin here. And I think what happened at the weekend is everyone kind of just did what they had to do. And Ray Kennelly gets sent off. Westmeath are up at half time in Mullingar. Kennelly gets sent off. Peter Cook is playing very well. But Galway bring on John Maher off the bench and has a massive impact late on and wins a couple of big kickouts. And they power past Westmeath late on, win by 8 points. Like, I'm not sure there's much more to say about Galway at the minute. They've moved into number 1 in my Gaelic Football power rankings last week, nearly by default, nearly because, as you're saying, Paddy, they are really the team that has shown us the most consistency this year and the most kind of, I suppose, power and depth since last year's All-Ireland final. So, anything to add on Galway at the minute, or will we move on to the Dubs?
I think we've done a lot on them, and I agree with you. They're one of the strongest teams. They're right at the forefront of favourites for this thing. Again, they're not going to base too much off them beating Westmeath. Bigger challenges lay ahead for them, and we've spoken a lot about the last couple of weeks, and we will be speaking about them again because they're going to be involved in some of the biggest games in the next 4 weeks.
For sure.
They did rotate a bit the weekend. Like they left, they had Cook midfield. Like they probably tried some new things as well, which they need to do because obviously, as you were saying, Paddy, the amount of knocks and niggles and things, you're going to have to put some square pegs in round holes, I reckon. But like they tried something new in a couple of positions and left Comer out, left Maher out. So to go with an 8-point win is still solid. Yeah. It is solid. Like they're happy, and they're going under the radar to an extent. They're not around town at home, and everyone's telling them they're great. They're not powering past teams. They're just kind of getting the job done.
They don't need to.
They
don't need to.
Which is it's a nice little place to be for them.
Paddy, I only want a one-word answer on this. We're going to play a little game here. It's called Good Dublin, Bad Dublin. Dublin win by 9 points.
Good.
Dublin pick up a couple of injuries.
Is this what the new role of analysis is? Like?
Dublin pick up a couple of injuries again. You're talking about those injuries.
I think they're only crap.
The other good thing that I want to get to is how they freshened up their forward line. Were you impressed by what you saw from Killian O'Gara and Collie Basquel?
So Collie Basquel was a standout guy, obviously. He's the type of player, he's so direct. He's unbelievable. He's any of the fitness tests and stuff, he's right up the front. He's lightning quick. He's probably He will nearly liken him to like Mayo. If there's a really set defence and there's a bit more nuance to it, maybe that's not his greatest strength. But in terms of his athleticism and how direct and decisive, he's a decisive forward. Which is, we've said this, when Dublin are decisive up front, they cause teams so much trouble. Yeah. So he was like, they scored 5 points from play. It was the positive thing I'd say, not just for himself, but a couple of the other forwards. Bugler was excellent again. Yes, he's putting together consistent
He's like a new signing, Bugler, isn't it?
But Jimmy, the positive for Dublin walking out of that ground in Nolan Park is like, Con was brilliant out at centre forward, but it's a case of nearly what we're saying Kerry are probably missing. They're so reliant on Clifford. It was brilliant to see Dublin win a championship game, and it wasn't Con and Mannion and Kilkenny and no one else. It's new players, and we say it takes time for younger players to get that confidence and that belief nearly in themselves, but Bugler seems to have that. There's a pep in his step now. He kicks a score in the second half where I guarantee you 12 months ago he'd have been looking around to hand pass to someone else.
Great score.
And he launches it. Collie Pascal as well, same thing, gets a score in the second half, beats about 3 Kildare players. Again, 12 months ago he's looking around, do I need to pass this to Kieran behind me? There's these players. That was the positive thing for Dublin. We know Kilkenny and Fenton and Mannion and all these guys have the quality because they've done it. They're gold played it. They've done it year after year in the biggest games. It's getting these 2 or 3 other guys to stand up and do it. That's the big plus there for Dublin from the weekend. On the other side though, like Kildare were
okay for a while and then just fell apart.
Like 15 minutes. The thing I couldn't get over was how they set up defensively. It was like you did a really good job in the Leinster semi-final, frustrating Dublin, getting lots of bodies back, and that seemed to just go out the window. And you're like, why would you not start your game plan from there and try? Like the thing that cost them in the Leinster semi-final was coming down the stretch. They weren't clinical enough, and for some reason they were really open. Con O'Callaghan moved to centre forward, and they couldn't fathom this, and Con was free. No one was marking him. It was like, I was like basic stuff, and I know I'm not going to be a dickhead about this, but the whole Croke Park, Nolan Park thing, like, forget all that if you can't get your basic defensive setup or your matchups right. And that was just, it was such a Furical Dare supporter looking in and going, Jesus, it's like, it's just a bad performance again. And we were chatting about this on air at the time. The anomaly in their whole season was probably that Leicester semi-final. That was a really good performance, and they're really hard to play against, and they could have won the game and possibly should have won the game. Whereas all through the league, and then again the Sligo game at Markovich Park coming down the stretch, and then Nolan Park at the weekend, that's the Kildare we've seen 90% of the time this season. Really flat and just running out of gas, and like Dublin were better, but it wasn't by any means. No more so we're talking about Galway. It wasn't Dublin 10 out of 10. It was better, but Kildare were just swatted away in that second half. So
Dublin still looked a little bit vulnerable at the back. Like Neil Flynn
was causing
trouble.
Yeah. Like, do you know what, Jimmy, I'd say on it? The first half was actually really good. The both teams, the kind of sweepers kind of went out the window, and I think that was a bad call by Kildare to do that. But in terms of entertainment, it was loads of kick pass and loads of scores.
It was all kick passing. It was unreal.
It was like going back to the 90s, like.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see what, like, when it is that open, Dublin will score at will when they're on it, but they have to be able to stop. Because, like, say I'm just looking at a Kerry Dublin game, I think no matter how Kerry are going, I think there's goals there in that Dublin full back line. If the opposition full forward line actually wants them and has it in their head that this is how to beat Dublin, I think there's goals there. And I think they could be caught for a couple of goals in the big game.
That's the injury situation. You're looking, Dublin are missing, not even in the squad at the weekend, Owen Merchant, Jack McCaffrey, Davy Byrne.
Massive.
That's three starters.
Yeah.
You know, they're 3 starting defenders. So like that, and it's not just Dublin, I'd say this with any team, Knox and Nichols, the frontline players. Who was the best squad in the country at the minute? Who was the most depth, would you say? Galway?
I'd say Galway.
Galway, Dublin, probably, yeah.
But then Galway have lost to Silk and Kieran Malloy as well at the back.
Yeah.
But they got Maher. Maher was like a new player, and they
Cook Burke,
I'd agree. But if you take 2 or 3 frontline players out of any team, that could cost them.
Yeah.
That could cost them. Like if you like the Cliff is missing for Kerry, forget about it. They'd be in the Tailteann Cup.
Yeah, he's important, right? No, I agree.
Yes, he is important.
I always say, but teams get too carried, or people get too carried away with the strength of panels and stuff. Like the panel can be strong, but you still need your best at their best.
Yeah.
Because your panel is not that strong that you can replace your best at all. Your best are so far ahead that they're the ones you need when the need is greatest. But you still obviously do need a very strong panel, especially in a full back line. If you have any weak link in the full back line, you're going to be exposed 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Couple of massive results in the Tailteann Cup. Only one place to start.
Here we go.
Parnell Park, 1 o'clock.
It's taken him an hour to get in. He's been waiting for this, baby.
1 o'clock Saturday. The Royals. Mead 1-11, down 1-9.
You're
down
like
kick
Jeff
17.
Stelling with Hartlepool.
Yeah.
Similar heartbreak as well, I reckon, for every week.
Yeah, a little bit of that, yeah. Down kick 17 wise in this game. Mead stood up late on. Dahi McGowan kicked a couple of late points. Kieran
What was
Coffey.
that on? Was that on telly?
It was on GAAGO, Paddy. Yeah. GAAGO.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Big weekend of action.
What a
GAAGO.
service.
I think
But if it wasn't for GAAGO, it wouldn't be on anything, would it? It wouldn't have been on telly
there
at
you
all.
go. It wouldn't have been on at all.
There you go.
Would have missed
and
it.
therein lies the issue.
For sure.
Actually, I can watch live games on my GAAGO, but I can't watch the playback. Is that a thing?
No.
No, you can, yeah. You can watch the games back.
There might be a little.
Yeah, it said renew subscription or
hold
something,
on.
but I can watch a live game, fine.
Have you paid for your subscription, Chippy? Are you on the dodgy box here? This is the real question.
James,
I'll talk to you off air about
Well,
this.
James actually has a media pass. I say there just could be something you're doing wrong there, James. So we'll have a look at that. The other results in the
So he
Tailteann
has
Cup.
does he have a legitimate account?
He does. He has a media pass.
Good man.
Yeah, a lot of
man,
journalists
Jimmy.
and pundits in the country will have that.
I don't. There's no playback on it. I'm telling you.
Okay,
There
I'll
is,
have a look at that.
Jimmy.
for you.
all over
Usually,
the shop.
technology now is not our
You sound
forte.
like Donald Logue trying to attack GAAGO again. Like, get out the gaff.
Tipperary ended their year. They're out, but they won 17 points to 113 against Waterford. Cavan are straight into the quarter-final alongside Mead. 225 to 2-9 win against Offaly. Offaly go into the preliminary round. We'll give you the draw in a minute. Laois were very, very lucky. They had a huge fright against London. They drew that game at a last minute score. They were down by a couple of points, pulled it back. They're into the preliminary round, and they drew that 117 to 214. And then on Sunday, Limerick were beaten by Wicklow, but too late for Wicklow. Wicklow were out, 214 to 110. A good performance from Wicklow. Some of their younger players that they've discovered this year, Conor Fee and a few others, are producing some good stuff. So it's been, I suppose, a positive year for Limerick or Wicklow and getting promoted. Longford beaten by Carlow. I think 114 to 213. They both go through. I think some of the sending offs in this game were a bit reckless. I don't know if you saw the Saturday game highlights. You might have to go back and have a look at some of the pucks, some old school brawls, we might say. Couple of shots given. Fermanagh Antrim, Andy McEntee's Antrim, 313 to 112 winners against Fermanagh. They topped that group and they're straight into the quarterfinals.
He's doing a good job there, McEntee, isn't he?
He's doing a really good job, quietly doing a really good job. And then in the game that possibly mattered most this weekend, Leitrim lost by 4 points to Wexford, 116 to 112. Ben Brosnan didn't start the game. I think the family had a kid. Ben Brosnan had his third kid during the week, didn't start the game. Came on late on, scored the winning goal. This game kind of hinged on Leitrim scoring a goal to send themselves a point up in the 52nd minute. And then Keith Byrne missed the penalty. The Wexford goalkeeper, Dara Brooks, saved it. And he also kicked 4 frees. So massive performance from Dara Brooks. So that's huge for Wexford. And a shot in the arm for football on Wexford. They're through to the preliminary round quarterfinals. So just to give you the draw, I have it here now, because we'll be talking about this next Monday, Paddy. We don't know what James's GAAGO is going to be like over in Vegas if he can't get it working in Killarney.
GAAGO's big in Vegas, yeah.
No, we're going to have it on the big screen at the pool party.
Yeah.
There'll be no commentary, but we'll have the game on. So it'll be
You
fine.
need the commentary, like. You need the commentary, Jim.
Preliminary quarterfinals.
We'll just a half-time. We'll do half-time analysis.
Offaly Wexford, Fermanagh versus Laois, Down versus Longford, and Carlow versus New York. Those 4 games are going to be played this weekend, and the winners will go on to play one of Meath, Antrim, Limerick, or Cavan, who are straight through to the quarterfinals. So there's 4 Tailteann Cup games this weekend. The weekend after that, we've got our final round of All Ireland round robin series games, round 3. And just to give you the fixtures, and we will also look at them next week on the pod. We've got Kerry against Louth, we've got Mayo against Cork, neutral venues to be determined. By the time you're listening to this pod, they'll probably be out. Galway versus Armagh, Tyrone versus Westmeath, Dublin versus Sligo, which will probably be in Croke Park. Roscommon versus Kildare, Derry versus Clare, and Monaghan versus Donegal. So a lot of football still to be played, boys, but I think we're in a little bit more of an upbeat mood this week. The hay fever is certainly eased on my part. The hangovers have possibly.
No hangovers are all
part of
fresh.
this week.
Bar Jimmy. Jimmy's rattled.
what
Getting ready for Vegas, though, to be fair.
I'll
Gotta line yourself up.
Be looking at a 5-day hangover after that, really?
Yeah.
Probably.
You might
We'll
struggle.
get you.
Yeah.
We'll see you back for the All-Ireland quarters, Jimmy.
Semis. Give me a chance.
Semis, okay. Yeah, semis.
James, enjoy your trip to Vegas.
I will do, Tom. Thank you.
Paddy, great work this week.
Stunning.
Yeah, you were
Master.
flat out. No, you did some great stuff this week, and you got a bit of golf in, so I'm delighted for you.
And I'm
Get
so
going
right
and
to a crisp
get
here.
on that after sun.
Yeah, you're going to need it.
Anyone got any aloe vera for me?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Enjoyed it, fellas. Thanks for that.
I'm off for dinner. Good night, lads.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
See you, boys.
Bye-bye.